we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School, and I want to welcome you guys to drboycetv.com. drboycetv.com is the home for intelligent black people. So if you are black and intelligent, then I want to welcome you to the party. If you're not black and intelligent, then you know what you can do. Anyway, do me a favor as you come into the conversation. Please hit the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe button, because I've got a good discussion for you guys today, man. This is something that was really heavy on my soul yesterday. I really thought about this, and I meditated on this before I addressed it, because I wanted to make sure that I got this right, because I feel like this is a topic that needs to be discussed in the black community. You know, and as a teacher, as a professor, my goal is to educate. I'm an educator first, and so I'm not here to sit here and pretend like I know all the answers, but I am here to say that I know a couple of answers, and I'd like to share some of those answers with you in hopes that perhaps it can help you and help you grow. Now, let me ask you guys a question. I'm going to ask you guys a question as you come in, and throw your hashtag B1 up. B1 stands for Black First. That means that we must also be one in order to win. Please put your hashtag B1 in the chat. So let me ask you this. How many of you, give me a yes or no in the chat on this, how many of you watched the documentary Becoming on Netflix with Michelle Obama? How many of you have been watching that Michelle Obama documentary? Give me a yes or no in the chat. Okay, I see KP is from South Africa. Nice. Kavan is from Toledo. Shout out your city. Feel free to shout out your city. How many of you watched the documentary Becoming? It features Michelle Obama, and it's all about, her life story. And it's a good documentary. It's a really good documentary. I'm not here to crap on Michelle or to say that, I think Michelle is a bad person or worthless or anything like that. But, here's the thing. Sorry, I'm letting everybody know that we're live. Here's the thing. Even though I have a tremendous amount of admiration and respect and appreciation for Michelle and the Obamas, I think that there has to be a critical and thoughtful discussion regarding, just what all this means. Like what the Obamas represent for the black community, what this documentary represents, what the goal is for the documentary. Because I'm hoping that at the end of the day, we can all agree that our goal is not to celebrate people per se, just to celebrate them, but to really talk about, what needs to happen for us to start winning. I personally want to see black people win again. I want to see black people, as they say, make America great again. Well, I want to make black people great again. I really do. I want to see black people achieving at the level that we know we're capable of. I want to see us solving problems. And I don't always see that. Instead, I see a lot of exercises in futility. And why do I say that? Well, I say that because, I watched this documentary and I couldn't help but feel that a lot of this documentary, unfortunately, and I don't know if Michelle wanted it to be seen this way or not, but it was almost like a victory lap. It was almost like a celebration. It was like Michelle's celebration of Michelle. I can say that even though Michelle's a great woman, I'm not so much into that type of thing. In a way, I mean, if you want to see that, I'll just go, get a Kanye West album or something like that. So this sort of self-celebration of look at me, look at how great I am. I'm an inspiration to other people, not because so much of what I've done for anybody or done for the community, but because I'm just special, because white people put me in a special position, and that makes me special. And if you behave like me and you follow the rules like me and you get white people to like you like me, then one day you'll be special too. One day you'll have an opportunity to get your good Negro sticker, and they'll put you on a throne and parade you around the country and give you $100 million in the bank, and you'll get to feel like you can call your mama and say, "Mama, I made it. Look, mama, I made it." Right? And I think that black people have a virus. We have a very bad virus in our community. And that virus is what I would call Mama I Made It syndrome. Mama I Made It syndrome. And Michelle is infected deeply. Love Michelle. Don't get me wrong. I like Mrs. Obama. Alicia graduated from University of Chicago, where Michelle, and Barack used to teach. I lived 2 blocks from Barack. Literally, I could run to Barack's house in 45 seconds back when I was fat. Seriously, I could run to his house and be back in 2 to 3 minutes back when I was out of shape and I was 80 pounds overweight. Seriously, that's how close I lived to the Obama's house. And I'm going to tell you, it was interesting. It was really interesting because I got a real close insight into all the crazy politics going on when he got elected. All the different perspectives I heard from different people in Chicago, about the Obamas. They are seen as extremely intelligent people, very professional. They handled their careers extremely well. And one day, I'm gonna tell you, one day I was looking out the window and I got a glimpse of that presidential motorcade. Sorry guys, ooh, I'm sneezing. Oh, it's allergies. I ain't got no corona, so stop it. Stop freaking out over corona. That stuff ain't going there. Your odds of, we'll talk about that later. So I saw the motorcade and we counted how many cars were in the motorcade. When I counted all the cars, the motorcycles, the ambulances, the fire trucks, the SUVs with guys with helmets, with machine guns hanging out the window, 2 limousines, not one, 2 limos, I counted 37 vehicles, man, 37 vehicles. That's balling, right? That's balling out of control, right? So the Obamas are the ultimate ballers, right? You should call them the old ballers, right? We're gonna call them the old ballers because they're balling, right? And God bless them for balling, right? We here's the sad reality though. We have a lot of balled out Negroes out here. We got a lot of black celebrities. That ain't nothing new. I've seen ballers before. I've seen people with helicopters and jets and, and fancy white people around them, doing their hair and putting their, makeup on and taking them to the European stylists. Fuck the black stylists, right? Black people don't know nothing about no fashion. Let's go to Europe. Now that we're special, now that we're the chosen Negroes, we're going to go to Italy to get our style because, my God, why would you go get things from the Negroes, right? We'll go to the Negroes when we want to, when we want to have a hip hop party or we want to learn another dance, right? And so here's the thing. Here's what I think probably got me a little bit on the Michelle Obama documentary. I saw Michelle in this doc, and I recommend watching it so you can get your own opinion. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to kind of just give you a perspective so that it might help with your own thinking. She handled the documentary very well. As Barack told her during the documentary, he told her that she's a very good storyteller. And I agree 100% with that statement. She is an excellent storyteller. She carries herself with a tremendous amount of grace. I was really, if she were my daughter, I would be extremely proud of her. There's no question about it. But the question at the end of the day has to come to, like, what does all this mean? Why does this matter for black people? And what criteria do we use? What criteria do we have as a community to decide who our most successful black people are, right? Because I'm watching the documentary, right? So all through the documentary, Michelle tells a lot of great stories about, people that doubted her. Like, oh, they told me I couldn't go to Princeton, and I went to Princeton. Ha, look at me now. I went to Princeton, and I'm the first lady. I'm glad she got fired, right? Okay, fine, all right. She tells stories about, I told them, I am the first lady of the United States. And everybody's like clapping, like, oh, that's so wonderful. That's so amazing. But the thing about it, the reason that I think you got to be careful when you're celebrating things like that is because if you're not careful, you might be turning yourself into a white supremacist. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, you when you think about white supremacists, you think that white supremacists have to be white. That's not true. Most white supremacists, the most effective white supremacists I've met, are actually people who are black. What does that mean? Well, white supremacy is the idea that white people are just better, that getting the approval of white people makes you a better person, that if white people decide to elect you, then that means that you're more successful than a person who didn't get elected. That if a white man gives you a job, then you get mama, I made it syndrome, you get infected, and you call your mom. You say, mama, I made it. I am somebody now. I got the jobs. I got me a job down at the factory. And that mama, they lets me wear a suit and a tie when I comes to work every day, right? And because we didn't know any better, we were raised on this white supremacy. We were trained to be white supremacy. White supremacy doesn't really work very well if only white people are doing it, right? It works best when we agree to it, right? Because we don't know any better, like my mom was the same way. Wait, you be like, oh, my baby, you become somebody. Oh my God, you become somebody. And then there's a point where you hit the brakes and you say, wait a minute. So if I can only celebrate who I am and what I've accomplished relative to what you think about me and what status you've given me in your systems, which I know are flawed and racist, then I'm giving you an incredible amount of power. I'm giving you the power of a God. You have the power to build. You have the power to destroy. The white man giveth, and the white man taketh away. Just go ask Bill Cosby. Go ask Tiger Woods. Go ask O.J. Simpson. And I can keep on going down the list. So So here's the deal. By the way, I'm gonna tell her. By the way, welcome everybody. If I didn't welcome you, this is drvoicetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. Type hashtag B1 in the chat. That's our ritual because we remind ourselves that the black community comes first. I wear annoying shirts like this because I actually put black people before everybody else. So, I can be critical of people who are white supremacists, but that would be a little hypocritical of me because I might be a black supremacist. I not because I just think that black people are inherently superior in every way, but because I just think that our opinion matters more than anybody else. That acceptance from us matters more than acceptance from them. That being an icon in our community means a lot more than being an icon in their community. So I don't care if you get elected. I don't care if a white man gave you a job. I don't care if you're the head of some white university. That doesn't mean anything to me. Like, you have to prove yourself to black people. If you're making a contribution to black people, then I'll pay attention. If not, then you're kind of worthless. You're as important as the paint on the wall. Okay, so here's the deal. Hit the thumbs up button, by the way. Please hit the thumbs up button. I'm sending a text message to let people know we're live. If you want to get a text alert, you can text the word Boyce to 31996. Text Boyce to 31996. Okay, so I'm letting everybody know that we're live. All right, so let's keep going down this documentary or going down sort of my thoughts on this documentary. I want to make sure I said them. I stated my ideas as clearly as I could because I literally was flooded with a lot of thoughts as I watched this Michelle Obama thing. Because I didn't want to go crap on Michelle Obama. I mean, I like Michelle Obama a lot. Not like that, but she's not as pretty as Alicia, but she's cool. And in fact, actually, if you go back, you can Google this. I almost got fired from Syracuse University over Michelle Obama, defending the honor of Michelle Obama. Do y'all know that? Y'all might not know this, but a guy named Bill O'Reilly, who used to be on Fox News, made a joke about lynching Michelle Obama on the air. He said something. Because Michelle made a comment and he said, well, I'm not going to lynch her necessarily unless blah, blah. And I'm like, what do you mean lynch? Like, what are you talking about? Like, unless? Well, you shouldn't be using the word lynch in a black woman's name in the same sentence. Like, that's not even funny. You joking about lynching people, right? And so that caused a big furor. And at Syracuse University, a bunch of people wanted me fired. And it became a big story. And just go Google it. It's out there. So I like Michelle Obama. I like Barack Obama. So part of me is very sad to have to point these things out. But I think it's very important for us to love ourselves enough to push ourselves to a higher standard. Because if you keep pushing yourself to a lower standard, you're going to keep getting lower results. If you keep on settling for nothingness, then you're going to have a big pile of nothing. So here's the thing. When I watched the Michelle Obama documentary, she was on her tour for her book, Becoming, and she's going city to city, celebrating all her, great accomplishments, which basically her great accomplishment was being elected to the White House, and then having doing great. Like they handled themselves well, no scandals, Barack was well spoken, Michelle maintained her composure. I respect that a lot. But a lot of it also wasn't just a celebration of white supremacy in the sense of saying that the reason this woman's on the stage and the reason that you consider her to be one of the most successful black people in history is because you've crippled yourself enough psychologically that you're allowing white people to decide who your most successful black people are. Had the Obamas not been embraced by white people, you would not have had her on the stage and you would not be considering her to be one of the most successful black people in history. Am I right or am I right? That's the honest to God truth. You would not, if she had not been elected, if they had failed, because remember, the Obamas been around Chicago for a long time. They've been the same people, for many, many years. It wasn't until they hooked up with some white folks, they got them elevated somehow very quickly through Chicago politics, which right there is kind of a scary concept because Chicago politics is very corrupt. And next thing you know, they become these national celebrities. And there's a celebration of celebrity, which is something that black people tend to do because not only do we celebrate white supremacy, but we also have this low self-esteem thing going on where you unfortunately are trained to spend a lot of time seeking validation from the people that hate you, right? So the low self-esteem thing kicks in where you got all these people that are worshiping the Obamas like Jesus, and there's nothing else there. There's no expectation. There's no saying, okay, your success is great. Your bank account is big. You got the big house in the Hamptons. God bless you. But where do the rest of us fit in? Okay, the white man came through the hood and he picked up 2 black people and he drove them out to the suburbs. Those were the Obamas. Can all black people in the black community fit into that car? Well, the answer is absolutely no. Why is that? Well, because studies show that in this false quest, this failed strategy of integration that you've been falsely led to embrace for the last 50 years, studies show that white people do not have enough jobs for all of you. White people do not have enough opportunities to sustain the entire black community. White people do not have enough university posts at Princeton. They don't have enough slots in the White House or the Democratic Party. White people do not have enough slots on CNN for you to be the next Van Jones. White people don't have enough slots at major corporations for you to all be the one black person in the entire department, right? And so effectively, they have a lot of you that are salivating over the people like the Obamas. And again, this is no fault of the Obamas. This is how the system's structured. This is how the Hunger Games is shaped. This is the Hunger Games. If you don't understand it, go watch the Hunger Games with a critical eye and you'll know what I'm talking about. What they've done is they've got you salivating over a very limited, scarce number of opportunities, and you're looking as ridiculous as a bunch of black boys who all swear they're going to the NFL. Have you ever gone to a 5th grade class and just been pissed off when all the black boys say that half of them say they want to be professional basketball players and the other half say they want to be professional football players, and then maybe a third of them can read? Right? Have you ever seen that? It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. But the thing is, you can't limit that to poor kids in the hood because a lot of black professionals are in the same category. A lot of black people are in the same category. And here's what's going on. Here's the fundamental reason. The reason is because when you're being fed all this symbolic success and all these emotional wins that really feed your self-esteem, that give you something to fantasize about, what they're not talking to you about is what you're actually missing. What you're missing is institutional infrastructure that allows an accommodation for the masses to all be as successful as a Michelle and a Barack Obama, or maybe not completely as successful, maybe half as successful. You don't think about this. For you as black people, you get these one-offs that are paraded to you. Even Barack Obama came out and compared him and Michelle to Beyonce and Jay-Z. He said, I just came in to make the concert much better, right? He called it a concert. He rapped a little bit of Jay-Z and Beyonce, and that's what because he was right, because that's what they are, right? The Obamas are rappers. They're just rappers for people who aren't necessarily listening to music at the time, right? So basically, this idea of the celebration of celebrity, the celebration of these one-offs, what that does is it only sort of feeds you psychologically and emotionally but there's nothing real there. There's no actual substance there in terms of moving the needle of the overall black condition or the overall opportunity set that exists for 40 million black people. There is no benefit from having another one-off. I mean, ask yourself this question. You know, we have dozens, maybe hundreds of black celebrities out here. You know, you got rappers, you got singers, you got basketball players. If you got all these black people that are so successful, all these people that are supposedly millionaires, you would think the black community would be doing great, right? There shouldn't be a black neighborhood anywhere I can go to where people are hungry or, you know, kids are getting shot up in the street or people are struggling. But that's not the case, right? Well, and the reason for that is because you're missing institutional infrastructure. You don't have a capital base to support your community. You're sort of getting off on these one-offs, right? So anyway, let me keep going. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, share and subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. So when I think about Michelle Obama's title of her book, the book is called Becoming, and so I'm weird like that. So I'll think, okay, becoming what? What did you become? What was the transformation between what you were and what you are now? Okay, now I used to be Michelle, a black girl from the south side of Chicago. Now I'm Michelle Obama, who is a Princeton graduate, married to Barack Obama, who lived in the White House for 8 years. Like, that's pretty much what, you know, made her become something, right? And so I said, okay, so that's the first white institution that validates you is Princeton. Well, let me be the first to say, fuck Princeton. Okay, let me just, I'm sorry, it's gotta come out of me, right? Fuck Princeton. Fuck you. I mean, I'm not saying you're not smart. I'm not saying you don't have great students at Princeton, but I know dumbasses who go to Princeton. I know rich white kids who get led into Princeton, because when you give people this sort of natural ability to validate others and to decide who's worthy and who's not, you're giving them a kind of currency that allows them to do what is basically the equivalent of printing money. You're allowing them to print money. Seriously, I'm not saying I hate Princeton. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Princeton's a bad school. If your kids want to go to Princeton, send them to Princeton. I went to Princeton, beautiful campus. It looks like Hogwarts from Harry Potter, I swear to God. But it's a great place. I had a child, like, she's my goddaughter, but she's my baby. You can't tell me she's not mine. And she was the #1 high jumper in the United States. Princeton was one of the schools that she could have went to. And I was like, I like Princeton. You should go to Princeton, right? So Princeton's cool, but I go back to my original point. Fuck Princeton. Why do I say that? Well, for two reasons. One, remember when I said earlier that one of the traps that you're in as black people, one of your paradoxes is that you're trained to spend your life seeking validation from the very people who have always hated you, right? You're seeking liberation from your slave captors. You're basically asking your rapist to drive you to the police station. That's what you're doing. Seriously, when people tell you, like, oh, well, come join the Democratic Party, they'll liberate you, they'll make your community better. That's like asking your rapist to give you a ride to the police station. That's why it doesn't work. You're like, damn, man, they keep telling me we're going to the police station, but I keep getting raped. Right? They're so rapey, and because you're stupid. But it's not because you're naturally stupid. I'm not saying you're brilliant because you're black, but you're trained to be stupid. You're trained to believe things that simply do not work. So back to what I was saying. Okay, I said fuck Princeton. I should explain that. Let's go into this. Seeking validation from your oppressors and from people who hate you. Do y'all know that Princeton is known? I taught at Syracuse University. Now, one thing Syracuse has, it's a party school now, by the way. A lot of partying, too much drinking, and I hated that. It made me really mad. I hate seeing young people ruin their lives with alcohol, but they didn't care. But one thing Syracuse was very good at was public administration. And I think Syracuse had the #2 or #3 or maybe the #1 public administration school in the country. They were top 3. Well, I remember hearing about Princeton because they also had, if I'm not mistaken, the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Policy or something like that, right? And so does anybody know? Seriously, so think about this, right? You want to go to the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Policy at Princeton. Does anybody know how much Woodrow Wilson absolutely hated black people? Like, do you know? I mean, do you really know how he just could not stand your black ass, like really thought black people just deserved to die. In fact, I think Woodrow Wilson was a member of the KKK. Don't quote me on that, but Google that. Give me a yes or no in the chat if it's true. Some of y'all can Google it if you want to, but I believe Woodrow Wilson, among I think 4 or 5 other American presidents, was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. So process this. Think about this. This is how they got y'all stuck on stupid. All of us. I say us because I don't want you to feel bad. Because this stuff surprised me when I first heard it. They have you validating yourself, right, based on criteria that is set by people who not only hate you but have completely rigged the game against you. Now let me tell you something. 2 things I'm pretty good at. One is I'm good at interviews. I've done thousands of interviews on TV networks and radio stations and stuff like that. And another thing I'm really good at is poker. I'm really good. I like poker a lot. I hate gambling. I think gambling's bad. So don't get into gambling too heavy because you lose all your money. But I like playing poker for very little money because it is a great game of strategy, psychology, and math. Why do I mention that point? I mention that point because one thing I learned from being a really great poker player, and because I'm good, I played in tournaments with 500-600 people and gotten first place. Like I've done that before. Like I'm just good at that. And the other thing I've learned from poker and also all these interviews is that there are situations where when you see a trap coming, when somebody lures you to play a rigged game, you back up and you say, I'm not playing that game with y'all. I'm not even gonna play that game. And they say, well, why aren't you gonna play? You scared? You're like, no, I'm not gonna play the game because the game is rigged. So here's my point. So when I look at white supremacist systems and institutions, and the fact that we've been trained to believe that those systems validate us, and that's our only source of validation, that's your problem. It doesn't mean that it can't have value, but it has to have reduced value. You've got to drop the value and find new metrics to determine what a successful black person looks like. You basically have allowed them to let you play a rigged game, because what they do is they say, hey, little Negro, you know you ain't shit, right? Like, you know, you when you were born, like, shit, we had the Planned Parenthood clinic in your neighborhood. We were hoping your mama would abort you, but since you're here, we just want you to know that you ain't shit, and your only opportunity to be shit or to be anything is if one of our institutions decides to stamp you on the forehead, to give you some sort of label, right? Now here's the thing. There's 100,000 of you, but we at Princeton, we only want 20. Right? We're going to take 20 of you and we're going to validate 20 of you, but we want the other 100,000 of you to sit around and salivate and to worship and honor and behold the 20 that we selected, because what that does is that gives us extra validation as well, but by the fact that other people are celebrating the people that we stamped on the forehead. So when Michelle Obama uses the term becoming in that title of that book, I'm like, what have you become? I'm not saying you haven't become anything, but if all you can tell me is that I am a Princeton graduate who went to Harvard Law School, who became the First Lady of the United States, all those things don't mean what you think. And honestly, if you use my measuring stick, which is the degree of correlation that I can make between your activities and the well-being of the black community, then I know 1,000 black people who've become far more than you'll ever be. I know 1,000 black teachers in the hood right now I could name who have saved far more black children in a real way, like put food in their stomach, education in their brain, motivation in their mind, protection of their bodies, like who've done far more than the Obamas ever could. Doesn't mean the Obamas don't matter, right? The Obamas are great, like Obama, like Barack said. Barack said, he compared him and Michelle to Beyonce and Jay-Z. They're entertainers. Right? And that's fine. If that's what you just be an entertainer, and that's okay. But this idea of making them into something other than they are, that devalues you. That devalues you. In fact, I had a conversation. Alicia and I we created a foundation. It's called the Boyce and Alicia Watkins Foundation. And I told Alicia, I said, I want this whole foundation's entire purpose to be focused on independent black-owned schools. Not black people going to Princeton. I don't care, but fuck Princeton. They got money. Not public schools. The public schools are not designed to help black people. No, I want to get money to all the hundreds of thousands of black people who want to see black children educated by other black people so that they will become successful and relevant and meaningful black people. Not the type of black people who get a fancy job and move to the suburbs and then they have a white chief of staff and a white fashion designer and a white hairstylist and whatever, and then get to be paraded over black people as some untouchable royalty that has nothing to do with their existence. Those are not the people that I want to help. I had a conversation on the phone not too long ago with a guy named Marcus Klein in Chicago. I'm shouting him out because I need y'all to look this man up. Marcus Klein runs a school in Chicago called Freedom Home Academy International that is educating black children at a level that is absolutely out of this world. And I'm not dissing the Obamas for bragging about Princeton and Harvard, but not many black people are going to be at Princeton and Harvard. Let's just keep it 100. And Princeton's had a lot of racism complaints over the years. So has Harvard. Right? In fact, the Harvard Law School took 200 years to hire a second black woman in the law faculty, and that was only because I called them out on the shit. Seriously, go Google that. I can say that I played some part in getting them to hire their second black law school. I just realized I did that. I forgot about that. But yeah, that did happen. I promise you. I'm not making this up. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Why is it that the masses of even our people will line up and celebrate the Obamas because white people made them famous, but Marcus is over here in Chicago educating your babies at a cosmic level, and this brother's trying to operate on a shoestring budget. He should not have to ask you for your money. The Obamas are sitting on $100 million a year, and this man is building schools with $10,000. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. I wrote a check. I said, well, I can't do much, but I'm going to try. So I gave a donation to the school for $5,000. This true story. And I sent it over. My manager sent it over, and she gave him the money, and we did a presentation, and I asked her, I said, so what did he do with the money? She said, oh, he's building another school. I said, he's what? She said, yeah, he's building another school in Atlanta. I said, how do you build a school with $5,000? According to Umar Johnson, you can't build a school with $10 million, apparently. I don't know. $5,000, are you kidding me? I went to the school for the check signing ceremony where we had, you had the big gigantic check and stuff. And I gave a little speech, and my cousin Tippy was there. And Tippy has a little bit of money, and we were so blown away by how educated those kids were that my cousin called me. He said, I want to sponsor a kid at that school. What can I do? How can I sponsor a child at that school? So here's my point. I'm not here. This is not a conversation about trying to diss Michelle Obama. This is the conversation more about you and I and saying, where the hell are your damn priorities? Your celebrities, people say, well, boys, why you expect the celebrities to do anything and blah, 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 blah. I actually don't. I'm talking to you. I'm not really talking to Michelle. Michelle's going to get her money. She's got her white friends that are going to make sure that her pockets are fat and she gets to do the Beyonce Jay-Z imitation. But just know that there's a difference between that and actual substantive progress in your community. That is not substantive progress. It's just not. The Obamas don't represent any meaningful, relevant progress in the black community. There aren't any statistics I can find anywhere, especially on the economic front, that show that Southside Chicago is economically better off because the Obamas were in office. That's just a fact. Do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, share, and subscribe button if you haven't done it. Please do that. So let me say this. Let me mention this, though. This is an important point to bring up. So in Michelle's documentary, and I want to keep reiterating, I'm not attacking this lady. I like Michelle. I really do. I told you, I almost lost my job at Syracuse for her. So you don't risk your job for somebody you hate. I just have an awkward way of expressing my feelings, and my thoughts. So if anything sounds like I'm being nasty or attacking her, just chalk it up to the fact that I'm an awkward human being who's doing his best to speak a truth that I hope people will hear. I heard Michelle mention when voting came up. Now, of course, we know the Democratic Party is always in a rush to fight for black voting rights. They love to fight for your voting rights. They don't fight for much else, but they'll fight for your voting rights. And you've been falsely led to believe that they do that to benefit you. No, they do that to benefit their aristocracy. Michelle and Barack, if you look at their background, they both went to Harvard Law School. There is a Harvard-Yale lock on all the leading positions in government. If you look at the Supreme Court, every single Supreme Court justice attended Harvard or Yale at some point in their career. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is the only one who did not graduate from Harvard or Yale, but that was only because she started at Harvard and transferred to Columbia, another Ivy League school, because her husband took a job there on the faculty. So a big chunk of the reason that black voting rights are so important to the elite and to the aristocracy is because they want to empower you to empower them. Right? So when Michelle Obama says we need everybody to vote, I'm disappointed that black people didn't vote. It's kind of like the Queen of England saying, I need everybody to pay their taxes so that we can pay the mortgage on the castle. And we can give you more this show. We can give you all this flash, right? But again, there's a difference between the flash and the substance. I think that what she needs to understand, though, is that the black community's gotten a lot more intelligent collectively, I believe, than they were even before the Obamas were elected. We tried the whole, remember, even before Clinton, it was sort of like, okay, people like Clinton because he was kind of black, right? He played the saxophone. So for some reason, people thought that a guy that plays the saxophone is a black man. And then he goes in office and he passes some of the most devastating criminal justice legislation that has, in American history, right? He does an Adolf Hitler on the black community and destroys, hundreds of thousands of black families all across this country. So then people are like, okay, so the fake black guy wasn't good enough, but now we got a real one, right? So now you got the real black guy. And what the Obamas have taught you is that that the color of the skin is not the same as actually the content or the substance of the person's agenda, right? It's not a reflection on who the Obamas are. It's a reflection on what they were incentivized to fight for, what they were incentivized to actually do. So with Michelle, when she says, I'm disappointed that black people didn't show up to the polls, I kind of look at that with a little bit of audacity, or I question the audacity of even thinking that somehow you've been that you have been selected as an individual who is even allowed or qualified or certified to tell black people what to do. Like, where is this sort of idea that if the Obamas go in front of black people all across America and wag their fingers at us and say, y'all better show up to the polls, that black people are just going to get in line and do it? That, to me, speaks to a serious amount of disrespect for the black community. I think that they see the black community as a pack of savage, unintellectual children with a few elites who went to Harvard, Yale, and Brown, who were civilized by white folks because they were processed through white institutions. So they've been, quarantined and properly cleansed. They've been sanitized, right? But the masses of you are seen as a bunch of idiots who are hypnotized by TV, radio, and hip hop music and barbecue chicken in between, right? I really believe that that's what they see, right? So they're thinking, like, if we just get Barack to go out and say, y'all need to vote. Your ancestors died for you to vote. Or if you don't vote, you don't count. Right? That people are just going to line up and do it, right? Because here's the thing. If there was a respect for the black community, then instead of saying, I'm disappointed that black people didn't vote, it's our people who let me down, maybe it ain't all about you. Maybe it needs to be a two-way dialogue. And why do I say that? Well, let me tell you another little story. I got so many good stories. I didn't realize I had these stories. Back in 2007, back when people, I guess, thought that I was going to play the game a little different, I actually got a call from the White House when Obama got elected, right? I wasn't that important to the point where I was invited to really fancy stuff. They knew better than that. But I did get a call from one of the people in the White House who was responsible for, managing the perception of Barack with black media. right? And because even back then I had a little bit of a platform, I'd write my articles and a few, maybe 20, 30,000 black people would read them. But it was a smaller platform back then. The guy would call me, right? And he wanted to talk to me, and I was like, sure, yeah, I'll talk to you. Like, this is like, I was very optimistic. I was thinking, this is awesome, right? We're going to have a two-way dialogue where they're going to find out what black people are thinking, right? One thing I can say with certainty is I've always had a good pulse on what black people are thinking, not just from instinct and from talking to you guys a lot, but also from statistics. Like I do polls and surveys to see what opinions are, stuff like that. The internet's great for that stuff. And so this guy, would call me. And at first I was like, okay, well, let me tell you, here's some things that I'm hearing from people. These are the things that I think Obama should address, blah, 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 blah. And then I eventually realized that the guy wasn't listening to me. The guy was not at all interested in anything I had to say. In his mind, it was supposed to be a one-way conversation. In his mind, it was supposed to be, no, I'm giving you orders from the top on what message you're supposed to push. And I'm like, what? Because you think I have some sort of undying loyalty to Obama just because white people put him in office? Fuck you. So after about maybe 2 phone calls with this guy, I just told him, I said, man, don't call me no more. I said, this is stupid. This is stupid. You're playing people. And all you're doing is you're asking people like me to carry water for people like you with nothing in return. Well, where I come from, that's what you do with a hoe. I'm not your hoe. I'm not here to serve King Obama. I'm sorry. Obama is here to serve us. You serve us. So what I will say to Michelle, and I will go back to this point, because I really think, I wouldn't be surprised, Michelle and Hillary both have these documentaries that have just come out. I think it's because they're going to make a political move. One of those two is going to do something. Because, Joe Biden is a little bit off. I mean, this man, he's forgetting things. And I think that they know more than we know about his mental condition. So I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Biden ends up miraculously jumping out of the race at the last minute, and Michelle or Hillary or somebody just coming in and with this amazing ticket. But I will just say that when you say you're disappointed in the black community, maybe you need to stop, and instead of saying I'm so disappointed because black people just don't get it, maybe you don't get it. Maybe you need to consider the fact that you're the one that's actually missing something here because you're not trying to have a two-way conversation. You're positioning yourself as some sort of royalty that has gained some sort of, right, or someone has ordained you. Maybe white people ordained you, but I didn't. Black people didn't ordain you, in my opinion. So some black folks did. I mean, I know, and I'm not saying that Michelle is a bad lady. Like, I think she's great. Like, she's, like celebrity. She's a cool celebrity. Like, I don't have anything against her. But no, you're not having a two-way conversation, and that's why you're going to be confused. So another couple of thoughts that I wanted to share, because I really thought about this. I took pages of notes on this, because I really was like, okay, I told Alicia, I said, I want to talk about this, but I don't want to be mean. But it's probably too late now. Y'all probably think I'm mean already. But anyway, so here's the thing that I think you want to really walk away with from this discussion, first and foremost. The celebration of these one-off celebrities, you can do it if you want to, if it makes you feel good, but just know that makes no difference for the black community. That's not black progress. That's not black progress at all. The reason that your community is losing is because you don't have institutions. The reason you lost your institutions is because the white liberals that validate you, that give you the good Negro sticker and stamp you on the forehead with their institutions, is because they get you caught up in a lot of social issues that have nothing to do with the relevant matters that shape the strength of a community. You see, so when a white feminist comes out and says, I want to be a white feminist, well, she can push that social issue because she has a capital base. What does that mean? A capital base is an institution or 2 or 3 or 1,000 that gives you the backing, the resources to allow you to pursue that agenda. So white feminists, well, what is their capital base? Well, they've got hundreds, maybe thousands, I don't know how many universities there are in this country, some of which have multi-billion-dollar endowments that allow them to pursue their agenda, right? They've got media outlets, massive multi-billion-dollar media outlets that form a capital base that allows them to pursue their agenda. The Jewish community has banks that give them a capital base that allows them to pursue their agenda. I can go on and on and on. So if you want to really talk about what black people need, you need your institutions. You had institutions before integration, and somebody got you caught up in this idea that that being a white supremacist is the right strategy for you. And that because you were inherently thought that his ice was colder, you abandoned your institutions to become part of his institutions, where you were going to receive inferior treatment, except for a couple of selected few, the royalty, the black elite, like the Michelle Obamas, right, who are strategically positioned to manipulate the masses, to control them, and to suck resources and power from them, to keep them in the position of power, right? And then you're wondering why your community is powerless, why the things that matter to you just don't matter to the world. Let me just tell you this. I was really touched by part of the documentary where Michelle Obama talked about her father and her grandfather. I pay attention to that because I care about the plight of the black man. And she showed old pictures of her family in the south side of Chicago. She talked about how her dad got up and went to work every day, and he was a great man, and him coming through the door was like God walking up the steps. I don't know if anybody else ever had a daddy like that, but that's how I felt about my daddy. I felt like my daddy was the greatest black man in the history of the world. I still do. To this day, I feel like my daddy's the greatest. Well, and I honor that, and I appreciate that. But I will say this to Mrs. Obama. If you want to really show that you actually care about the people that you're asking to vote for you or vote for your party in the next election, you must consider the fact that the South Side Chicago that you grew up in isn't the South Side Chicago that most black kids are growing up in today. That structure that you had, the fact that you had that strong working father in the home, oh, that's gone. That's totally gone. Doesn't mean it's not there in some families, but most families don't have that. So everything that you had coming up has been absolutely decimated by things like mass incarceration and 3 strikes laws and the Joe Biden, Bill Clinton crime bills that were pushed by the very same Democratic Party that you're asking black people to support. So I can't imagine that you haven't thought about this. But in case you haven't, just know the cat is out of the bag. Black folks have figured that out. We're not going to vote for our own self-destruction. Black people ain't going to do that. So until and unless the Democratic Party goes back and really does some substantive work, multi-trillion dollar, like $2 trillion worth of work to fix that issue and bring all those fathers back into the home, black folks are going to be pissed at them and pissed at you for getting pissed at us for not supporting them. We love you, Michelle. We think you're great. I think you're so smart. Sasha Malia is so cute. And my God, it's, you guys are just great. You're wonderful ballers. But come on, lady. What are you talking about? How stupid do you think black people are? I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm speaking for myself. But I know that there are other people who get what I'm saying. So, in fact, everything that Michelle told about her story of growing up in the south side of Chicago probably wouldn't have happened in 2020 because of Joe Biden and Bill Clinton crime bills where they locked up all those men in south side Chicago. I know a man who is in prison right now who grew up on the south side of Chicago. In the 1980s, he did sell drugs. And the jobs had disappeared, so he was making his money however he could. But he was 18. Guess what? Check this out. So he made this money. He took care of his mother, his sister, his brother, his entire family. So do you know what? Do you know what the feds did? Do you know what the Biden Clinton feds did to this man and his family? They gave him 14 life sentences. 14 life sentences, no parole. They locked up his brother for 20 years, who had children, by the way, children in the south side of Chicago where Michelle Obama grew up. They locked up his sister, and they also incarcerated his mother. They put the whole goddamn family in prison. And so if you put the whole family in prison, what's going to happen to the kids? Well, 20 years later, his son gets murdered in the south side of Chicago on a block that is less than a mile or two from the place where his father was selling drugs 20 years ago. That is not progress. So stop telling me that these liberals represent progress for the black community, because families are progress. Structure is progress. Prosperity is progress. Institutions are progress. We've lost all these things in exchange for what? A little symbolism? Come on, man. That doesn't make any sense to me. It burns me up when I think about it. It burns me up. In fact, if I was to ask you guys right now, let's do a quick test. How many of you know a black man who has gone to jail or prison? Type a yes in the chat, or type their name. And I get emotional when I think about this, man. It really bothers me. I swear to God, I can't. Damn it, I didn't mean to. I have no idea when these spontaneous bursts of emotion are gonna come up. How many of you? Okay, let me pull my emotions together, because I can't. And say their name. Please say their name, because when these people go to prison, they act like they're dead. They act like they don't exist. Please say that person's name. Please say their name. I didn't mean to do this, guys. I swear, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm looking like a big old punk. I apologize. But this is serious, man. This is serious. So what I'm saying is, look, let me finish up here so I can go upstairs, and now y'all can make fun of me. Oh wow, I'm sure somebody's gonna laugh at me now. You got a lot of work to do. You have a serious job in front of you. And when it comes to the Obamas, nobody's mad at you because you got $100 million from Netflix. Nobody's mad at you for having a $15 million mansion in the Hamptons. Nobody's mad at you for comparing yourself to Jay-Z and Beyonce. But one thing that we cannot do, and I refuse to do, is I'm not going to give you credit for accomplishing things that you did not accomplish. I'm not going to go along when you're ordering people who have gone through all kinds of hell, who will never get to experience the world that you experience, and you're ordering them around like little soldiers who are here for your beck and call. We are not butlers in the White House. We're not maids that are supposed to come clean your bedroom. Black people are not here to serve you. You're supposed to be here to serve us, and to be considered amongst the most accomplished black people in the community. You got to be like the Marcus Kleins of the world and back in the hood, really doing the work, creating the jobs, creating millions of dollars in infrastructure that will allow people, thousands and thousands of black people, to own businesses and get back to work and to rebuild our institutions. So the last thing I'm gonna point to is, I put this on Instagram. Feel free to read on it. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. I believe that one basic rule that we can consider is this. I think that every time I see a celebrity brag about how much money that they're making, I don't really want to hear you brag about how much money you're making. I'm tired of rappers bragging. Stop bragging. Fuck you. Fuck your money. I don't care. Stop bragging about how much money you make. Kanye, shut up, stop bragging. You look stupid. Don't brag about how much money you're making unless you're bragging about how many jobs you're creating for black people. So for every $1 million a year that you're making, you should be able to show me 3 to 5 black people who are able to pay their bills, or at least a chunk of their bills, because they work for you. So that means if you make $10 million a year and you can't show me 30 to 50 black people who are able to feed their families a little bit better because of you, then it doesn't matter to me. I literally will look right past you. You don't exist. You're not an accomplished black man, in my opinion. If you make $100 million a year, you need to show me 300 to 500 black people particularly in places like Southside Chicago, where you got all your street cred and you're constantly talking about it, but talking about it ain't the same as doing something about it. And I think that's another mistake that we make as a community. We think that talking about the damn problem and bringing awareness to the problem is the same as fixing the problem. So I saw Michelle. She took the time to strategically, this documentary was as strategic as they come, and it was a good documentary. I highly recommend watching it. And but I saw her make the obligatory mention of all the people that were shot by the police. Eric Garner and Michael Brown and Tamir Rice, and she went down the list, and Trayvon Martin and all that. And I think that that's fine, but speaking on the problem is not the same as fixing it. And so I want to know, okay, you are a Southside Chicago girl. That's what you talk about all the time. Well, where can I go to the South Side of Chicago and find 500, 200 black people who are living better lives, who are able to pay more bills because of something that was created in partnership with Michelle Obama? And I believe Michelle can do that. And in fact, my hope is that if she even gets wind of what I've just said, that she'll consider that as a strategy, and I will be more than happy to advise free of charge. I don't want a nickel from you, or I don't want anything from you. I can pay my bills. I just want to see actual progress. All these damn rich Negroes bragging about how rich and powerful they are and not moving the needle at all on the state of the black community. We got to kill that. We have to kill that. I want to take speaking of people that are helping, I want to say thank you to those of you who made donations in the chat. Twinborn, thank you for your donation. He says, you have heart and this has to stop. A punk are those fake blacks selling out. I don't even think this has to always be a warfare thing. I'm not here to attack anybody. I'm here to attack the problem. And I have a lot in common with people like the Obamas. I went to school and all that like they did, and I can respect what they did with Ivy League schools, but to kind of sit on that and to embrace that complacency and to not even have the desire to, at some point in some relevant way, put black people first, really speaks to the idea that you expect black people to suffer. Like that you're okay with black suffering, that, because studies show that people feel, white and black people feel that black people feel, studies show that both white and black people believe that black people feel less pain than white people. So if white women have a crisis, that can become the top priority. That's nice and safe. But if black people have a crisis, we can't make that the top priority because, my God, that would be too black. But black people have a lot of economic challenges, and the biggest crisis we have among many is broken families and dismantled institutions, right? So ultimately, I think, you're making $100 million a year. Why aren't some of those partnerships being announced where you're going in? I'm talking about going into Southside Chicago, where you're from, and creating 500 jobs like that. Let me keep going. Let me read more of your comments. Those of you who donated, I'll read your comment here. Thank you, Dr. Watkins. Philosophers agree. Whoever controls the narrative in the media and Jermaine's gendarmes? I don't know that word. Police, military controls the world. Support black media and exercise your Second Amendment rights. I don't disagree with that. You're right. Talking, don't do shit, but exercise the lungs. That gets played out. Absolutely. Yeah. We have to know the difference between talking and actually getting things done. And I don't want to set an impossible standard here, right? I think that all of us can appreciate, what the Obamas are dealing with, right? The many hats that they have to wear. But I think that the hero worship is not beneficial to the community at large. And I think also you get it flipped in terms of forgetting that these individuals, if they are public servants, if they're asking for something from you, then you have the right to ask for something from them. So when she says, I'm mad that they didn't vote for me, well, then I would turn and say, well, what did you do for them to make them want to vote for you? And if all you can say is, well, they got to look at me and my husband in the White House, well, that's not a good answer, right? It's like if my child says, I'm mad that my boss didn't give me my paycheck, well, I'm going to say, well, did you go to work? Like, how many hours did you work? And if she says, well, I worked 1 hour, but I expected $3,000, then I'm going to say, no, that doesn't, life does not work that way. It's supposed to be reciprocal. Thank you, Terry Cobb. Thank you very much to, a lot of you gave in here. I'm trying to get to everybody. I see you. I want a mask now. Grab your KN95 mask at iwantamask.com. Use Dr. Boyce for 30% off. Okay, so let me repeat that because they give a good donation. I appreciate that very much. iwantamask.com, iwantamask.com, and use the code Dr. Boyce and get 30% off. So I hope that you can generate a lot of sales off of that. So anyway, guys, I'm about to go. My head's starting to hurt. And I really enjoyed talking to you guys. And thank you for listening. And once again, I reiterate, this is not anti-Michelle Obama. I'm not a hater on Michelle. I think the family's great. But I think we have to elevate. And I think that there's no excuse. If we do not elevate, then we'll never win. If we do not elevate our thinking, then we will never elevate our situation. So let's elevate our thinking. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV.